All right, well, that was a message from a group of sixth graders in Iowa after the Obama administration announced that it was canceling public tours of the White House starting today. They're blaming the automatic spending cuts from the sequester. But if the government does not have money for White House tours, how can it justify spending your money on things like, well, let's take a look at this list. 3 White House calligraphers who together earn $277,000 a year, or $141,000 to fund a Chinese study on swine manure. We're not making that up. And what about the $500,000 spent to support shampoo products for cats and dogs? $500,000 for shampoo research. Why aren't the pet product companies getting that tab? And one of our favorites, while the government shuts the doors to the White House, it did spend part of a $325,000 National Science Foundation grant to build a robotic squirrel. We call him Robo Squirrel. Alan Colmes, host of The Alan Colmes Show, and radio host Lars Larson join me now. Great to see you guys. Alan, let me start with you. Of all of the choices and places to cut federal spending, why would the Obama administration start with White House tours?
Well, there's more to the story than I think has been generally reported, which is that the uniform division officers under which the people who give the tours fall also involves the Secret Service, and that they are using these people now for other security areas in the White House because of furloughs that will take place. Also, this could reduce the number of furloughs given to Secret Service people because of the reassignment of personnel based on who does these tours. That's what the full story is. And it really is a security issue more than just we're going to deny these kids the chance to go and see the White House, or we're taking your house away from you, or somehow it's some kind of trivial thing that really doesn't matter when other things are much more important.
Okay, so I hear you, and I think that's a good, but let me just ask Alan one more point, because they did say it would be $74,000 for these Secret Service agents. Right. So you're saying that the president, who we know has some latitude in these cuts, couldn't find the $74,000 elsewhere through some other wasteful or superfluous spending?
I don't work in the White House, so I don't do the books there. I'm not the bean counter, but the explanation is this has to do with security issues and the reassignment of personnel given the furloughs that must take place.
Okay, Alan, Lars. Some people have suggested that the closing of the White House smells like a stunt to get the public attention for the fact that the Republicans, the White House say, didn't figure out the sequester.
I think it stinks, and I think that Alan's argument is a bunch of Chinese chicken manure, frankly, because the White House spends, as you pointed out, almost $300,000 on calligraphers. Let's get rid of those altogether and farm it out to private sector printing companies. And let me point this out. The Obama White House in the last 3 years has given to the White House tour director a nearly 44% increase in pay, from $70,000 a year to $100,000 a year. So you've got a White House tour director, but no tours. The president is trying to punish Americans, many of whom may be taking their kids to Washington to see the nation's capital during spring break, and they're being told, you're shut out. We're so short of money, you can't have the tours. Alan knows better than to argue this is security.
No, I don't know any better.
We could easily arrange security
don't
for
tell
the
me
White
what
House,
I know. You don't have to
Alan.
be condescending
This
to me.
is Chinese chicken manure.
Look, the way the right is playing this, because they can't stand anything the president does, that the president is somehow purposely hurting little children who want to take the tours of the White House, when this is clearly, as I've explained, a security issue, something you would like to be oblivious to. You can spend it any way you want, but that is the fact of the matter.
Lars, yes.
The president just spent $1 million for a golf weekend. That was the extra cost of flying Air Force One down so the president could see his $1,000 an hour golf pro and visit with Tiger Woods. Take that $1 million and you could fund the tours of the White House for what? Another 5 or 6 years? Alan, your math doesn't add up. I'm glad you're not a bean counter.
You've got there's always a different yardstick to this president and other presidents. All presidents take vacations. All presidents go on Air Force One. Only when this president does it, does it become a problem for people to defend other presidents when they do the same thing. Stop having a double standard.
Alan, are you comfortable with the idea? But Alan, are you comfortable with the idea that the White House, the People's House, of course, had to cancel tours for school kids? I mean, really, because we know that there are other places that they could have cut.
Again, look, I think the optics of this are bad. I know it looks bad because we keep saying we're preventing little kids from going to the White House. but I'm telling you, it is a security issue based on the reassignment of personnel that must be done based on the sequester
Allison.
issue. But you can spin it any way you want if you want, because you want to make
Allison,
the president
can I
look
point
bad.
something
Yes,
out,
Lars.
Allison?
Yes, Lars.
I think Alan wants to do a filibuster, but believe me, you're no Rand Paul, Alan.
Thank you.
But I got to tell you this. How about this? The Secret Service is under the Treasury Department. Now, the White House has its own budget, and in that budget are the calligraphers, the White House tour director. Why don't we fire one or two or even three of the calligraphers, save $277,000 a year, and continue the tours for the little kids?
You know
on
what
the
happened?
spring
You know what
break.
happened?
Tell me
I
how
can
it's-
respond. You know what? Then you'd say, "Look, the president's firing people. Look, he's hurting jobs. Here's the president
Good.
is here's the
They should
president is
downsize
cutting.
the government.
You should be happy the president's finally cutting something. You know, I keep hearing the president
he's
doesn't
only
do any
cutting
cuts.
under
Here he's
duress,
cutting,
and you know it.
He's doing it to hurt little children.
But Alan, I mean, listen, but let's not demagogue the issue for
What's
real.
demagogue? You say he's hurting little children is demagogue.
He is.
Well, the little children actually put out an entreaty to the White House where they said,
Right.
please let us come to the
And
White
who
House.
put that
They
together?
had a class trip. I guess the kids or their
Yeah,
teachers.
they
but
produced
their
it.
class trip.
Conspiracy, Alan.
Look,
Right,
Alan,
okay.
here's the point.
The evil
we know,
right-wingers.
Hold on a second. There was a robotic squirrel for $325,000. Doesn't it seem, Alan, as though there was another place, rather than closing the White House doors, just make a few other adjustments? We're showing Robo Squirrel
You
right
know,
now.
I have a feeling no matter what this president does, by some of the things like the manure issue, those are things decided by the Congress and the Republican House, by the way. Some of those expenditures you mentioned are indeed decided by Congress, not by the executive branch. So those are the people you
Allison?
should blame for those expenses you don't like.
Okay, yes, Lars. I mean, Alan has a point. Some
Let's
of these
get back-
things
let's
were
get back-
authorized by Congress,
Let's get-
but doesn't the president have latitude to cut in certain
The
places?
president has latitude within the White House budget, and while every president's budget for the care and feeding of the first family has grown, this White House has grown the budget. Last year's total was $1.4 billion. We all know that this president, at a time when he's racked up $6 trillion in new debt for the United States, and a lot of those decisions were his decisions, has
Actually-
lived very, very Alan, he has
Yeah.
lived very, very lavishly in a time when we should be seeing austerity
let me,
as an example from the commander-in-chief.
point out the
And you
deficit-
can't accept the fact.
Are you filibustering? Let me point
no,
out the
but I was gonna
deficit,
try and
the
finish my
deficit is
thought.
down under this president, by the way.
Oh, the deficit is down.
Yeah.
Allison, check the books. $1 trillion last year, $1 trillion
Deficit is down.
this year, $1 trillion next year. If the deficit is down,
Yeah.
why is it always $1 trillion?
Not only is the deficit down, but the rate of spending, which increases under every president, is much
the
less under this
deficit
president.
in spending increase.
The rate,
Allison,
the rate of spending is less under this president.
Okay, Lars, you go,
Allison,
and then Alan, I'll give you your shot. Yes, Lars.
This is the way that government wants to figure things. Allison, if Roger Ailes says to you, I'm planning to give you a $10,000 raise, and then he only delivers a $5,000 raise by Alan's math, that means you've taken a $5,000 cut. This is the way that government at every level, federal, state, and local, does things. They plan on huge increases, and when you cut the increase, but they still increase, they call it a cut.
Okay.
Alan, that doesn't add up.
Number one, don't give Roger Ailes any ideas. Number two, Alan,
Number-
but what is your? I mean, Alan, as we know, the president had some say in what could be cut.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this isn't just about people who say that the president is bad and will do anything. You're okay with the fact that this is their first public big cut.
Number one, I will take Roger's $5,000 raise. Number two is that, again, this was done
Not
for
based on
security
performance.
purposes, which I think has been lost in all the brouhaha about how
it's
he's
the
hurting
Treasury
young
Department.
children. So that is really
All
key
right.
here that I think needs to be explained.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the debate. Always
Thank you.
entertaining.
Thank you,
Lars
Allison.
and Alan, great to see you.